The conversation continues. Hi, this is Ralph Lewis. Join me this Thursday for another great interview.
What's the role of solar? How do we monitor water, air quality in them? We are raising the level of awareness around this conversation around sustainability. The purpose of that grant was to just over €1 million create a comprehensive sustainability plan for UCCI that will guide our sustainability initiative and practice for the next, say, five years. We have a solar charging station here on campus, so our students can begin orienting themselves to the use of this different type of energy. And how do we document all of this successes? I'm really excited.
Remember to like and share Caymanian Times Facebook and YouTube pages for your reminder to another great interview this Thursday at 7:30 a.m. This is Cayman Conversations. Welcome back. The University College of the Cayman Islands, UCCI, is embarked on a journey towards sustainability and has partnered with the RESEMBID program to make this a reality. The UCCI and RESEMBID project is more than just a partnership. It is a catalyst for innovation, education, and sustainability. At its core, the project aims to develop a comprehensive renewable energy and sustainability plan for UCCI, setting the stage for a greener, more resilient future. I'm Ralph Lewis, and this week I spoke with Cleveland Julien, Project Manager for Science, Technology, Engineering, Maths and Health, and I will add, sustainability. Good morning, Cleveland, and welcome back to Cayman Conversations. It's been about 2 years since we've been talking about RESEMBID and sustainability, and it's something that's very close to my heart. Can you give us an update on what's RESEMBID all about and what's that journey that you've been taking and where we are today?
Good morning, Ralph, and a special good morning to your Caymanian Times listeners as well. And as always, thanks for having us. So, I'm really excited to be on a call this morning. As you can tell, there's quite a bit happening here on campus. And we have a big event coming up next week for our sustainability workshop. But as you said, I want to kind of step back a little bit so I can offer your listeners a little bit of context of kind of how we got here. So when you and I started talking, we had just gotten our first RESEMBID grant. And that grant really focused on upskilling Caymanians across 50 industries, specifically tourism management, IT, sustainable construction, and solar voltaic installation. So I'm happy to say that was done. We took 50 students through that experience, and we graduated them earlier this year, and they're all graduated, and some of them are already actively in industry. What we also did with that grant was did a quick labor market assessment, where we got a pulse and a snapshot of where we are as an unemployed and underemployed Caymanian society, and how we needed to upskill our Caymanians for the jobs of the future. So that data is here and it's being used to inform decisions internally. And we're working with our external partners to make good use of that information as well. And certainly, last but not least, we did a number of initiatives here on campus to kind of begin moving us in this direction of sustainability. One of them is a collaboration with CUC. We're installing 2 EV chargers here on campus. So if you have a electrical mobile, this might be a place where you might come to charge it. 2, we have a solar charging station here on campus, so our students can begin orienting themselves to the use of this different type of energy. And with the joint project, we also had a solar panels installed in one of our buildings. So that was RESEMBID 1. And so that phase of the process is now being completed.
Okay. Can you say what was the country's buy-in and how it was accepted by the country, the government, and the people on a whole?
Yeah, we are lucky to be joining our voices in this initiative. So as a country, we actually have 4 grants with RESEMBID. 2 of them we have at UCCI, and the government actually has 2 grants and are driving a very successful initiative there as well. So, from the ground, it feels as though, one, we are raising the level of awareness around this conversation around sustainability. Are we there yet? No. but is a critical part of this current grant, which I'm sure we will get into, really focuses on that part of it. Really, how do we continue to make people informed and maybe impact their decisions in the future? But from a community standpoint, I think it is mixed, but I think it's growing. We've been encouraged by what we're seeing with our collaborations with government and private industry. And now we're even getting interest with other nonprofit organizations who are trying to do similar work here on the island.
Okay, and that's good. And then, when we had our first discussion, we sort of spoke about the future and the years down the road. We're now 2 years down, our time really goes fast. And you can see, and I'm happy to hear that there's traction and people are getting involved. There's an exciting event happening next week. I noticed they sent out the release. Can you tell me some more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the RESEMBID 2 grant, and so we started with RESEMBID 1, we ended up getting a second grant that was for just over €1 million. And the purpose of that grant was to, one, create a comprehensive sustainability plan for UCCI that will guide our sustainability initiative and practice for the next, say, five years. Two, to do an audit of the entire campus, to take an assessment of the buildings that currently exist, to figure out how they're using energy, how do we better position them, what's the role of solar, how do we monitor water, air quality in them. And so we did a extensive report that has been completed and is now available, and we're using those to inform the second portion of that, which is to actually do the work here on campus, right? To now go into those buildings and make specific changes. Some of the things that you'll probably see coming on stream is we recently signed a contract with a solar provider here on island, and so our Silvaso Hall, which serves also as a shelter for Caymanians, will now have a 150 kilowatt DC unit on it, and that unit will save us roughly $30,000 every year. And the goal is that we would eventually do more buildings, obviously, in the future, not with the RESEMBID grant, but hopefully with other initiatives that we will have. And how do we document all of this successes, or all this data that we interacting with? And so a critical part of that project also is creating a digital library where the solar data, the electrical data, the water monitoring data, the air quality data gets stored and used not just by UCCI faculty and staff, but hopefully the wider Caribbean and our global partners.
Okay. Well, there's a saying that you live what you teach, and it can be seen that you're actually on campus with all these technologies, and you're learning about technologies, but it's right there at your hand. And actually, as students getting to be a part of doing those tasks, such as when you start to refit the hall, are they going to be involved in that, or is it an external contractor alone?
Great question. And so part of this initiative on RESEMBID 2 is we had to take our past students from RESEMBID 1 who would have done, let's say, solar voltaic installation or construction, and then bring them into this experience so they actually have hands-on real-world experience working with our consultants. So every single consultant that we work with, either from Cayman or beyond, is requested to work with one of our interns, and so that they can have the hands-on experience of what does actual solar installation look like working with a real company. Now that you've finished your technology certification, how does working with a construction company actually look and feel like on a day-to-day basis? So that is a critical part.
Okay, excellent. Can you give us some more detail as to what the event next week will be, day 1, day 2?
So the event next week is the pulling together of internal stakeholders here at UCCI. So our faculty, staff, our students, our board, in an attempt to give them a place where we can collaborate on what does this vision of sustainability look like for us? What would be the key thematic areas that we would want to focus on in our sustainability plan? And I will share a little bit about that shortly. And how do we begin to put together, our goals, our commitments, and our potential partnerships that will help us to drive that? That's day one. That takes place next week, Thursday, from 9 to 12, and that will be facilitated by our consultant, Miss Christine Young from Green Carib, a sustainability firm out of Antigua. Day two of that workshop then takes some of our selected UCCI faculty, bring them into the room with government and business and community members and other stakeholders. And now we are extending that conversation and attempting to build joint collaboration and interests, and have the experts weigh in further on even the recommendations and ideas that are coming out of the faculty. And then that takes place on December 1st, same time from 9 to 12 right here on campus.
All right. Well, I'm sure going to make sure that I'm attending, because this is very, very interesting. Sustainability, I think, is the future, and the more we embrace it, it can only lead to success. Talk to us about the UCCI sustainability.
So I believe we shared a document with you earlier. I would love if you could bring it up on the screen if at all possible, because I think it's worthwhile that we kind of pause a little bit so that folks have a better sense of what we're trying to do here. So as I mentioned before, this effort it's a joint collaboration between UCCI RESEMBID and now Green Carib, a firm led by Ms. Christine Young, who is a natural resource management trained from the University of the West Indies, has worked extensively in the Caribbean with both regional and international organizations. And so this is our strategic objective here, right? We are seeking to build, to create a framework for future decision making on campus, and to be able to engage a diverse group of both academical and non-academical, meaning both our internal and our external partners, so that we can put a list of initiatives that match what the community and what our faculty and staff would get to be behind. Essentially, what this is a roadmap for UCCI to be able to execute on our sustainability practice and initiatives. It lays out what the starting points and benchmarks of those would be, what our goals and commitments would be, and how we would monitor and evaluate that in the future. And like with everything else, it's really to strengthen the partnership around, what it would look like when we begin to execute that. Because it's one thing to share ideas, Ralph, and it's another thing to really set up a system that things can actually get done with. And it won't get done unless we have specific partnership. If you can move to the next slide, next one. Right. And so what are these areas that we are talking about? So Christina and her team has put together this list of specific thematic areas that we're looking to establish goals, standards, and commitments and ways of monitoring in the future. And those include energy and water efficiency. How is the campus currently utilizing energy, both renewable and non-renewable sources? How we currently use water, not just when we open up the taps, but how we manage the runoff. How do we manage waste? What's the role of recycling? What are we trying to teach our young people when it comes to how do they actually tangibly take responsibility of this planet that they're inheriting? How do we procure things as an institution? Because again, this is a roadmap for the future, obviously. And a big part of what we do as a university is procure services and goods. And so we need to have a sustainable roadmap for doing that. How do we manage the natural resource that we have been so blessed to have here in Cayman? The biodiversity, our mangroves, and other protective areas. What's the role of the institution in trying to lead in those initiatives? What is the culture that we are trying to engender here on campus as it pertains to not just sustainability, but to research and to governance and and how faculty and staff interact in this space, the sort of experience that our students have, and how does that extend out to the wider Caymanian community as a large? How do we create a framework for governing ourselves and making our decisions with the help of our external partners? What does mental health management look like for us? What does health and wellness look like for us? How do we design the campus in such a way that it plays into people remaining healthy and wanting to be healthy and wanting to adapt more healthier practices? I mean, and in there we could, I suspect that we're going to get suggestions around how do you manage food.
Yes.
And food management, like as a university, where are we sourcing our food from? Are we even creating our own? Are we even part of that whole conversation? And campus operations, what buildings potentially we would need now and in the future? How do we put policies in place that ensure that when we make decisions here and beyond, that we are guided by a very clear roadmap?
And before we move on, Cleveland, I have a question. Initially, when we started talking about the wisdom program, I got a thought that okay, it was going to be another subject or another area that UCCI is offering for educating our local people to get into the buy-in. But now what I'm seeing from this project is that it's becoming an integral part. It's becoming part of the foundation of the UCCI, and basically everything else works within this framework. And going through this list, it looks like this this development and this direction is where it should have been years ago. And it should be part of the foundation, and everything builds on top of that, like building a home. And so I'm very pleased to see that these items or these areas are included in the in this presentation. What's your feedback on that?
It has been overwhelmingly supportive. I think, listen, I think people are excited about us beginning this conversation in a more tangible way. They have already seen the progress that we have made with the previous grant. They have seen some of the successes of this current one. So I think they're beginning to get as excited, maybe not as excited as I am, but they're beginning to really become enthusiastic about it. But to the top right of this page, you'll see a symbol. And for those of your listeners who are familiar, that's the SDGs. That's the Sustainable Development Standards that the global community use to really assess, what focus area we're trying to attach. So with us joining this global conversation and attaching ourselves to a global standard, what it means is we can also attract global interest in our initiative. So this becomes really larger than UCCI, because there's work like this that's taking place all over the Caribbean and obviously all over the world. But we really want to do our part as an institution to continue to champion these ideas and to build collaboration around very specific initiatives that we will take. So every single one of those is tied to a very specific SDG. And so that what that means for us, Ralph, is hopefully we get other potential partners like RESEMBID, more access to grants, because we are using a UN standard, to align our practices. And we have a way now that these ideas don't just die when the RESEMBID grant ends, but we have a way to go after funding and partnerships that we can continue this work into the future.
Yes, that's great. We have always tried to be leaders in the Cayman Islands, and this is another way of setting examples for others to follow. And we can see we are moving right. We started a little late, but we're catching up, and that's a good thing. Can you talk about energy and water efficiency?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, as you know, we have a clearly defined national energy policy here in Cayman, and we have some very aggressive goals that we're hoping to accomplish by the year 2030. UCCI is one of the largest consumers of electricity on the island. So then it goes without saying then that we should be paying attention to what our current carbon footprint is and how
Yes.
we begin to manage that. And so this first step of getting 150 kilowatts of solar energy, this is really exciting for us. And the fact that it will be paid back in less than 7 years and continue an income stream for us of $30,000+ a year, which would be used to fund other sustainability initiatives, is pretty exciting. How do we manage the water, both the ones that we use from the water authority, but also runoff as well, drainage around the campus, the waste that gets placed in that water? What part or role are we playing in that, so that we are continually taking initiatives that don't add or take away, I should say, from the environment, but we're continually adding value back and extending the life cycle of all of our natural resources.
Resources, yes, yes. Oh,
You know,
let's
there,
take it over.
yeah, there are a couple of really big. This here is one of, I think, is the low hanging fruits. I think this is an area that you'll probably see some action within a very short space of time with the right type of partnership. I won't mention names currently, but we are in conversation with several firms on the island who do this type of work. Um, I have been in conversation with some of the other institutions that closely in our proximity here of UCCI, and their appetite for joining us in these sort of efforts, because there's this relationship, right? Their students come here, our students go there, and so to figure out what is our policy for managing plastic, for managing paper, managing waste, and how do
Yes,
we get how do we get institutions and people to manage those things more responsibly and to buy in once we begin to launch some of these initiatives.
yes. I foresee uptake or an aggressive approach to the waste management going forward. Not only that, the government have been working on this aggressively over the years, but I think people are now buying in to how important it is, and we're running out of space for waste. And so to know that UCCI is involved in this as well, I think sets an example not only for the country but for the students and those planning to educate themselves. Know that okay, we're managing our waste in tandem with the whole country and developing waste management facilities and so on.
And Ralph, I think the real important thing about what you just said is we're managing it in tandem with all of the other people who are already doing extraordinary work here. It's only while doing this project I'm aware of the student groups and the private community groups that are, doing quality work in the shadows here. And but this is a big problem. This is a big problem. And so it would take many hands being put to this plow to really begin to make a rich impact here. And so as a tertiary level education, we feel as though we have a greater responsibility to both educate and inform, but also to put our own hands to the plow and lead by example.
Exactly, I
Mhm.
totally agree. Sustainable procurement.
Yeah, this is really a thorny issue, I think, for most institutions, especially when you're trying to really make to transition here, because oftentimes we make choices based on availability, based on price, but now you got to factor in a whole different variable that might possibly increase price, or possibly increase the length of time you have to wait, and or the types of materials that are being available. But is it worth it, right? Is it worth it? And you know this is one of those places that we would have to get a lot of rich buy-in from, not just from internally, but also from government, because it would mean that the budget has to reflect our intention to really do this type of work. And even though it might cost us some to get somebody specialized in this skill to do it for the university, and hopefully be able to source better materials for ourselves and manage them. It's absolutely worth the investment for us to do so, but we all need to be on the same page.
Yes. Are there any other areas that you'd like to highlight in this presentation?
You know, I am a really big, if you go one slide down, I believe, right here. Um, and so we could put together the best strategy possible. We could put the best laid plans on paper. But if we cannot get the people to be involved and we cannot begin to engender culture on campus and with our partners that helps us to execute on that agenda, then it's not going to go anywhere. And so, what is a sustainable culture? Meaning the norms and practices of an institution, not just not just governance, but what does a sustainable culture look like? What does a company of the future that's doing this type of work? What sort of collective ideas are there people engaging? What sort of common beliefs that we have that it makes it easier for us to be able to partner? This is a place that we have to do some work as an institution, but is also a place that I am willing to spend a significant amount of my time investing in, because if we could get the people properly aligned, properly trained, give them resources, I think they will do good work.
One of the challenges I see that we have in the Cayman Islands is communication. And as a newspaper platform, and we are ramping up our resources, and the whole goal behind it is to get more information about these topics that really are not exciting but important into our community's eyes, because they will realize going forward that this is what it has to be. We cannot turn a blind eye to what is happening around us in relation to the environment. And yes, everybody's talking about it, but we need more details, more meat on the bones of all these community conversations, so that they can understand how important it is and and get the buy-in that you're talking to and the commitment that you're giving yourself. I think that we need to have some more from our industry and others.
You know, I really want to take a moment just to acknowledge the work of um, Tower Marketing and Lynn Bile and her team, who handles the communication front-facing aspect of this for us. You know, they have taken a lot of the ideas of this initiative and making it palpable for the larger community. So people are being informed of what is solar, of what's an astro or audit, what's the role that it plays. And I imagine as we continue to roll out these initiatives, you're going to see them trying to do their job at the front end to be sure that people have
Yes.
enough of the tangible information that they need, so that the ones who need more of it, they will always know the source. And hopefully we can create opportunities for the community to continue to be engaged here, not just from a surface level, but for those who have the appetite, they can come and dig deeper. And again, that's what the session that's scheduled for next week is all about. It gives us an opportunity to bring the experts into the room, because we are not the experts, and for us to listen and to learn about what's being done, and for us to begin to making commitments around what we would want to do and what that plan should look like for us.
Have you seen a growth in the industry where businesses are now changing their tools or more embracing that there is a future in this structure with in the sustainability, and accepting that this could be the future of many employees or many graduates to embrace an industry that they can be compensated effectively and have a life in this business?
Yeah, I think the whole issue of corporate social responsibility is taken on a very um, nice tenor when it comes to sustainability and sustainable practices. Not only is it a great buzzword, but there are companies who are really vested in doing this work. And Ralph, I will go even one step further and say this: at the end of the day, businesses solve problems. That's what they're set up to do. They're engines to solve problems and create value. And so what we have seen, not just working with our partners, but across the globe, is that a lot of these initiatives might be started and championed by an institution like ours, but they are picked up and run
Yes.
by businesses. So an example of it is this: there are companies who are taking glass and turning it into sand,
Right.
and 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 becoming extremely profitable doing so, because it's a resource that people are literally throwing away, that they are now figuring out how to create value for it. And we have even started exploring some ideas around what that might look like for us, because we have mangrove that can utilize some of these resources, and we even started to ask the question of what might we do. And if I had my colleague Dr. Beal here on the call with me, this is probably an area of personal interest of hers. And so we do expect businesses to continue leading in this way, and we have definitely seen an uptake of their willingness to do so, not just globally, but even here on the island.
Yes. And there's a saying, there's big business in waste management.
There's big business and waste management.
That's a commodity that will always exist, and in larger quantities as the population grows, and so that business will grow in tandem with that. And it's something that business owners and entrepreneurs should really think about seriously, and may want to move away from traditional businesses that may have become burnt out or not as profitable as they were in the past. And so here are opportunities. I'm just sending this out to business owners and entrepreneurs. You may want to get in some waste management or sustainability projects, because there is support for it. And what we're hearing from you, Cleveland, is that it is embraced internationally.
So I don't know if you know how beautifully you have queued up this conversation I'm about to have next, but you have did a stellar job. So we believe in that particular framework so much that the when you and I started this conversation 2 years ago, Ralph, I had we had floated the idea of what if we could start a center for sustainability here on campus. What if the work of these grants get deposited, has a home so that it doesn't end? Now it has a framework, a document, a sense of governance, it has plans, it has partnerships, and what we can move now, what if we can move that forward? And we have a legacy product that comes from this catalyst that RESEMBID has offered us. And so several of my colleagues and I have been in conversation, my colleagues from the STEM department and from the business department. And we are looking at a framework for the center that involves sustainability, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Because as I said, businesses solve problems. And so if we create a framework where we help develop businesses that have a very specific focus on impacting some of these SDGs that we are focused on, we are not just making people aware of a problem, but now we are creating an incubator for how we can
Yes.
create problem solvers that will serve our local community and hopefully be beyond. So my colleague and I are traveling in a week to USF, and we will sit and watch and learn from what they are doing with their sustainability center initiatives there. And the hope is with them or some other institution that we engender a partnership that we can then launch our own center when this ends in April. That idea lives very rich for us. If that becomes a thing that this grant gives us, I think it would be an awesome thing for UCCI, and even an even bigger thing for Cayman.
Yes. Well, April is not far away, and I wish you all the best. Any final words as we wrap up our conversation today?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much for always giving us a platform to come and share. We're very always appreciative of that and for your support of these initiatives. Obviously, we hope to see you and your team here next week when we have our workshop here on campus. Again, that's November 30th from 9 to 12, and that serves UCCI student, faculty, and staff. And then on the 1st of December, where we're inviting external stakeholders, government, business, community leaders to join us here in this collaborative effort to etch out this plan. I just want to kind of close by saying this. I think Cayman has a really unique opportunity where it has both resources and the economical sophistication to take on some of these challenges. And so it would be a lost opportunity for us if we don't attempt to lead in this, not just here on the island, but really across the wider Caribbean. So we're really hoping that Cayman and Cayman government and business and community join us in that effort to make our institution and our island a leader in sustainable practices and options.
And well said. And I can speak for what I've heard recently from the new Minister of Sustainability, the Honorable Catherine Wilkie Banks. She is definitely motivated and committed to sustainability, and she will continue the journey that has been started by the previous Minister for Sustainability, the former Premier. And so I can say that I anticipate that you will have all the support from the government, because this is not only for the government of UCCI, this is for the Cayman Islands. And on that note, Cleveland, I want to thank you for coming on, and I invite you back again. Because this is a journey. I remember 2 years ago, I said, will this fade away?
Yes.
Prove me wrong. And I'm happy for that. We thank Cleveland and our listeners for joining us today, and invite you to add your comments and questions on our social media feeds. Remember to like our Facebook and YouTube pages for your invitation to our next conversation. And I'll also pick up your free Caymanian Times newspaper on Wednesdays and Fridays. Until next time, have a great weekend and be Cayman kind.